Listen, this is really exciting for me. I've known Kristin Robertson for some time, president of space and C2 systems at Raytheon Intelligence Surveillance. Hi, Kristen, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good, good. I think many of you know Kristen. She's, as we said, she's the head of the president of space and C2 systems for Raytheon, delivering current and future space solutions for defense, government, intelligence, and security customers globally. Significant portfolio includes wholly owned subsidiaries at Blue Canyon Technology as well as Seeker Engineering. I think we're going to talk about both of those today with Kristen. That's exciting. Before joining Raytheon, she was a senior executive at the Boeing Company, vice president of defense and space and security, general manager of autonomous systems. It's a fascinating career. And in fact, one of the things that I'm really anxious to talk about with Kristen today, being a woman in what was for some 50 years or so, a man's world in defense and executive leadership. And in fact, that's not just in the business side of it, it's also in the STEM side of it. So she has a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. She's involved and recognized by the Society of Women Engineers. She was a 2021 Laureate Award for Defense Innovation. She's fantastic, and it's great to have you. I think we have a number of things that are going to be very fun to talk about, Kristen. We're going to talk about a little bit about some of the significant benefits of commercial space technologies. We'll move into NASA's plans to launch NOAA, maybe talk a little bit about the growth in the SmallSat segment, Jad C2. These are things I know that you're right in the middle of, and I'm anxious to hear about them. So let's pick up with some of the significant benefits of commercial space technology. Speak a little about that if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we're seeing these big pivots, and certainly, launch cost over the last, 10 years or so with SpaceX has been a huge unlock for the market. And as you and I kind of chatted a little bit before, it has really opened the playing field in allowing the access to new technology, to investment dollars that are not just military, DoD, or some of the traditional segments, but just really open that up. And it has accelerated the market. Again, huge playing field, access to lots of tech skills, workforce, et cetera. And that is really changing the landscape. And we're very excited about it. In particular, when you think about the small sat market, proliferated space, if you will, the barriers to entry are a little bit lower, from the standpoint of, some of the other orbits that are allowing that access from a lot of different companies and a lot of different angles. So it's very exciting for us. We think at Raytheon Intelligence and Space, we are positioned very well to play both on the DoD civil side, special, and then as well as on the commercial side. We have a number of contracts and activities that cut across. And I think, that gives us a huge advantage to be able to bring technology and capability at scale and at a very, very affordable price. So I think that's one of the biggest changes we're seeing is just the amount of entrants, the large scale technology, and then the speed of that technology and capability coming to market.
Yeah, I can see that. Now, in the vein of these commercial space technologies, clearly Raytheon, you see the value in that. You've got wholly owned subsidiaries that came through acquisition of commercial technology providers, Blue Canyon Technology, Seeker Engineering, or certainly. Can you speak to that a little bit? How does that change and impact your trajectory, your technology trajectory, your growth trajectory? Maybe it even impacts your culture just a little bit. Speak a little to that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, with the recent acquisition, and we're almost coming up on a year with Seeker, BCT. It's been a couple of years now, Blue Canyon Technologies. But as we think of our space and command and control technologies, piecing that together across, we have the full gamut of capabilities from merchant supplier solutions to fully integrated. And then when you think of, command and control, processing on the ground, but when we think about future capabilities, taking that processing to the edge, which will be needed for these very tight timelines and these new missions that we haven't even imagined yet, we believe we are well positioned with our technology and our BCT and Seeker are products that we can bring to market very fast and affordably.
Sure. I think that's fantastic. Now, let's move to NASA. They've got plans to launch NOAA's latest joint polar satellite system. I think the satellite is going to be launched next week. I know Raytheon has some critical technology on board. What can you tell us about that and the mission that it's going to support?
Yeah, I mean, JPSS is truly changing how we see the world. When we think about how amazing the system is, it is a series of polar orbiting environmental satellites that circle from pole to pole and cross the equator 14 times a day. It really is the backbone of the country's Earth observation system. And RAS, Raytheon Intelligence and Space, contributes two key components of JPSS. The first is our visible infrared radiometer suite, better known as VIIRS. From 500 miles in space, VIIRS keeps a constant eye on our planet. It uses 22 multispectral bands looking at emerging storm patterns and generates high fidelity sea, land, and atmospheric data for a variety of applied products, including monitoring wildfires, droughts, floods, vegetation, algal blooms, and nighttime phenomena, which this data is critical to multiple industries, whether that's agriculture, finance, transportation, insurance, and energy. The other contribution that we have is we actually have the Common Ground Station. So you can think of our Common Ground Station as kind of a remote control and a computer processor for this joint polar satellite system all in one. And so through a global network of ground stations, we provide that command and control, data acquisition, routing, and processing. And that data all together from on orbit into ground, is parsed with other data sources and provides many environmental products, as I talked about, whether that's cloud measurement, vegetation, ocean color, land and sea surface temperatures, all of which are a significant input to improving weather forecasting. So a very cost-effective global ground system that supports many domestic and international weather environmental sensing satellite systems. So we're very excited about the launch, and we're excited about our contribution to the environment and the importance of the missions it supports.
That's great. That's great. So speaking of that satellite, there's also tremendous growth in the SmallSat segment. Raytheon has a variety of plays there. Talk to us about that. That's going to be interesting too.
Yes, so we talked about Blue Canyon Technologies and Seeker, some recent acquisitions that we've spent over $1 billion to build out these capabilities. And I talked about some of the unlocks in the market and in space and how it's kind of transforming before our eyes and very rapidly. Certainly the growth in SmallSats is staggering. Just 10 years ago, right, all of humanity, public and private sectors combined, launched 39 small satellites. Last year alone, we launched more than 1,500. That's a 3,800% increase. And next year, experts are forecasting we'll put more than 2,200 small sats in space. So this trend, we do not expect this to slow down anytime soon. And it's certainly a trend that we're well prepared to fuel and meet that demand. And again, with our investments, we are contributing to the small sat industry and to proliferated space, both with Seeker, BCT, and then our other experience in the portfolio. We believe our Blue Canyon Technologies buses are a very affordable option for proliferated LEO. And we're continuing to invest in these capabilities for MEO, GEO, and cislunar as another example. And our ground systems leverage flexible frameworks that allow scalability to add on additional vehicles and additional vehicles very rapidly. This is important for proliferated LEO and organizations like the Space Development Agency. When you're bringing new vehicles, every other year, they're going to these 1-year and 2-year centers. And the SDA is not alone. There are many other industries that are moving at that breakneck speed. And so we've got to have modularity and, really move at the speed of light. But our systems, they're built for resiliency. And as a major ground provider for national assets for over the past 5 decades, right, we understand how to protect those systems with AI and cybersecurity. So we believe the acquisitions of BCT and Seeker, combined with our heritage capability, deliver comprehensive solutions to spacefaring customers. And that's important because this pivot to proliferated space is just happening so fast. I had the pleasure a week ago of listening to General Thompson, the Vice Chief of Space Operations, make a great point about this pivot. And he used the analogy about 66 million years ago, how the dinosaurs were wiped out in one event. We see that same thing happening in space. Again, we'll see that move to smaller, more capable, proliferated systems. And we are ready for it. Delivering that full spectrum of missions, communications, whether it's missile warning, missile defense, tracking, earth sciences, or intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance. You name it, we can do it all. And we are positioned to meet that mission of the future.
Your dad would be proud. Your dad would be proud. Look at you. Hey, so I want to talk about 2 more topics quick while we have time. There's a lot of talk in defense circles regarding joint all-domain command and control, Jad C2. You and I both know the Mitchell Institute recently published a study on the role space will play in that new construct. Given your role and Raytheon's role in space, what are your thoughts on how space will contribute to Jad C2 and how Raytheon's contributing?
Well, I'm a bit biased, Ken. Space is always the center of my universe. So I'm glad you brought up the Mitchell Institute's report. One of their key findings was that, space-based capabilities really underpin Jad C2, or Joint All-Domain Command and Control, as you said. And if you think about it, it makes a lot of sense. And here's why. Jad C2 is built on the concept that the Department of Defense, in coordination with its allies and partners, make decisions faster and act faster. Sense, make sense, act. Shorten that sensor to shooter timeline. So that Jad C2 is DoD's vision for future command and control operating construct, and it will synchronize operations across every domain: sea, air, land, space, cyber, across the electromagnetic spectrum. And space, again, will enable that construct. Jad C2 really depends on our ability to collect and disseminate data across huge distances in near real time, if not real time. It's really about getting the right data and the right information to the right people at the right time so they can make the right decisions. Again, sense, make sense, act. No better domain is suited to do that and enable that than space. Space allows us to span across all domains. We can move high volumes of data literally at the speed of light, as we recently demonstrated through our Mandrake 2 effort. Our Seeker team completed a successful demonstration of optical inter-satellite links between 2 Mandrake satellites for the Space Development Agency, DARPA, and AFRL earlier this year. During the first test, more than 280 gigabits of data was transferred at a range of 114 kilometers. The advantage of optical communications is that it's point-to-point and inherently has a low probability of intercept. This is really important. So when you couple that type of communications technology with existing ones, like the Advanced Extremely High Frequency Network, then you could begin to see how critical space is to the Jad C2 architecture. Equally as important is the sensing capability of space-based solutions and what they provide. Just think about missile warning and missile defense enterprise as a whole and the role that will play in the peer threat conflict. Our space-based sensors will continually feed this data to the network, enhancing our warfighters' situational awareness and their ability to decide and act faster than our adversaries. So everything is dependent on space. And
that's a great answer. That's a great answer, Kristen. Hey, so one more question. You just talked about some cutting edge technology in the optical intersatellite links. I'm very interested in your thoughts on the macro trends you see shaping the future of space and the technologies that you and your team at RINS are developing today. What are you developing today to align and intersect with those future trends, and what most excites you?
Yeah, I think, we talked about, space being more affordable than ever, this, spanning between commercial and, these boundary spanning partnerships, and then the importance of space, not only to protect our freedoms, so and our economic prosperity, which is important to society. But I think some of the key technologies that we're focused on and we're very, very excited about, in addition to what we're doing and the role we play in Jad C2, it's back to processing on the edge. And I talked a little bit about that. That is critically important. So leveraging what we do on ground, and then with Seeker, our ability to take that on orbit and then cut those timelines down. We talked about JPSS and, weather. What's exciting and what we're working on in that space is just multiple multispectral instruments and, really different business models, weather as a service, how we do that is very exciting. And then, SmallSats and just SmallSats in all orbits, not just proliferated LEO, but we can move around, we can communicate across orbitologies, and it's all enabled, as we talked about, that launch cost that is just moving at the speed of light. So all of these technologies keep us safe and secure for many years to come. And so I'm very proud to support space and the space enterprise.
And support women in engineering, and support STEM, and support these other things that you do. Fantastic. Kristen, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I'm going to toss it back to David and Scott, and we'll tie off. Listen, thanks so much. You've been fantastic to talk with. That's very thought-provoking, and had a good time. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Ken.